Good morning. As she said, I'm Heather Wachendorf. I'm proud to serve as the minister at Highland Park Christian Church. Today I want to begin by sharing with you two things. The banner we brought is Put Love First. And that is always our goal, to put love first in whatever we do. The second thing I'd like to do is to share with you the open and affirming statement that you can find on our church website. Often when you hear all are welcome, all doesn't really mean all. At Highland Park Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, all means all. This includes all persons regardless of race, ethnicity, culture, age, gender identity, sexual orientation, economic status, political views, or physical or mental capacity. We recognize, celebrate, and give thanks for all the many diverse gifts of God among us. All persons have worth and are unique creations made in the image of God. As disciples of Christ, we declare ourselves to be an open and affirming congregation, welcoming all to participate fully in the life of the church, including leadership, baptism, communion, marriage, and all forms of ministry. We are a community of faith that works towards openness and understanding, offering justice, healing, love, and wholeness for all people. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, as God's beloved, all are worthy and welcome. Highland Park Christian Church began our journey to becoming an open and affirming congregation in May of 2019. We followed a step-by-step guide called Building an Inclusive Church that was recommended by the Disciples Glad Alliance and created by the Institute for Welcoming Resources. One of the first steps of our journey was to meet one-on-one with all of the elected church leaders, as well as those people that we recognized were influential, non-elected leaders in the congregation, to meet with them one-on-one and see what they thought about the church becoming officially open and affirming. One of the long-term members who was a part of our open and affirming team, she was very hesitant about that part of the process. But she knew that Highland Park had always been welcoming to new guests, but where did they stand on making an official statement about welcoming everyone, including members of the LGBTQ community? Some people in our congregation had already made known that they were in favor of us becoming an open and affirming congregation, but there were a few of the older people in the congregation that she wasn't sure about. She said, "I'm not proud to admit that I had preconceived judgments based on stereotypes of the older generations. But I was proud that the people I had initially worried about surprised me with their openness and proved me wrong. That was definitely a learning moment for me." So the one-on-ones in this time of conversation, people were asked what their thoughts were on becoming an open and affirming congregation and why they felt the way that they felt. These were open conversations. There was no attempt to persuade them or to change their mind. The focus was simply to sit down one-on-one and to listen. Now, the majority of the people that we met with ended up being about 30 people of the congregation. Almost every one of them shared a story about knowing a friend, a family member, a teacher, an acquaintance who was part of what we call the LGBTQ community. And the main answer that we heard when we asked, why do you think becoming an open and affirming congregation is important? Their main answer was very simple. It's the right thing to do. So our journey continued with the guide directing each of the members of our team, which was about 5 people. Each member was asked to complete a congregational assessment. So we answered these questions that were provided in the guide on a scale of 1 to 5. And then at the end, we took all of our individual scores and we compiled them together. Now, some of the questions that we were asked to answer were, does your church have a mission statement that includes a welcoming statement? And does that statement explicitly include people of all sexual orientations and gender identities? Second, are you aware of LGBTQ persons in your congregation? Third, assess the political temperament of your congregation and score 1, be completely conservative, and 5, being completely liberal. And then 5, do you have a female pastor? Well, we got a 5 on that one, so that was really good. Now, once everybody had completed the surveys on their own, again, we took all of the results and we compiled them together, and we averaged out our scores for each question, etc. Now, depending on how many points your church scores, if you use this guide, you are then suggested a pace. And the 3 paces are called cautious, moderate, or adventurous, right? So the higher you scored, the more adventurous you are, the less likely you are to have to conduct long-term conversations. If you fall into cautious, it means that you scored low, and there's probably a lot more education and a slower pace that you will need to take in order for your congregation to reach a place of comfort with a decision. Now, based on our team's assessment, it was recommended that Highland Park Christian Church set a cautious pace. Now, that surprised a lot of the people in the team. One team member shared that when they thought back to conversations that they had with friends from other churches and other denominations, they thought we were pretty progressive. So how could the score be so low? Surely we would be adventurous. I mean, at the least moderate, but no. So we thought, well, this guide has worked for other churches. We were honest on our answers, so we will trust the process. We will trust that these people actually know what they're talking about. So we took the cautious approach. We went through slowly, methodically, and then just as our journey was about to embark on our final series of open discussions and Bible studies and O&A focus worship, guess what happened? Oh, a pandemic! Anybody else's plans get derailed in 2020? Yeah. So we had to take a step back. We had to wait. We had everything ready, but we thought this isn't the kind of conversation that takes place over Zoom. Like Tiff said, we needed to embody these conversations. We needed to be physically present with one another to participate fully in the discussions that needed to take place. So we stopped meeting as a congregation for 13 months in person. We continued to stream online. And it was even longer than that before the O&A team was able to gather again. Now, the loneliness and the fear of COVID caused many of us to reevaluate our priorities and our opinions, to view the connections and the value of people very, very differently. So in February of this year, the Open and Affirming team met again in person and felt that anyone who had previously been on the fence about becoming an Open and Affirming might not feel the same way that they did before. And so the team knew that it was once again time to get back on the journey, to put our feet on the path, and to not do so timidly, but to do so with enthusiasm. So we researched other Open and Affirming churches around the country. We read their Open and Affirming statements and formulated our own, the one that I read for you today. With confidence that the guide had led us well, our journey to becoming an open and affirming congregation was nearing its end. We went to the congregation with our statement, as well as an employment practices statement, which ensured that we were interviewing and employing a diverse candidate pool. The team shared their personal thoughts with the congregation on why they thought it was important that we say all are welcome. how important it was for us to specify that all includes members of the LGBTQ community and those who have been pushed to the outsides. One of the Open and Affirming team members shared the following when we first read the statement before a congregation. She said, "Some of you may be asking why we need to specify sexual orientation or gender identity in a specific statement. We welcome all people. Why can't we just say all?" She went on. The Declaration of Independence, for example, the second paragraph starts by saying, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal." But black men weren't given the right to vote until 1870, nearly 100 years after the Declaration of Independence was written. And women weren't given the right to vote for another 50 years. And same-sex marriage wasn't legalized nationally until 2015, just 5 years ago. So when you read that line, "all men are created equal," all did not mean all. And that's why it's important that even though we say all are welcome, we need to specify what all means. Because historically, all hasn't really meant all. So at this meeting, we then read the statement and the employment practices, and we scheduled our vote. And then we gathered for the special meeting 2 weeks later, and every single member present voted in favor of becoming an open and affirming church. Yes. And we added that statement to our bylaws, making it official part of our identity as a congregation. We then added those open and affirming and employment statements to our website and proudly shared them on Facebook. And 1 month later, we had a party to celebrate, and we lit up our bell tower with the colors of the rainbow, so that every night it shines out as a beacon of love and of hope to our neighbors. These are just 3 of the beautiful milestones that have been part of our journey. At the 2019 General Assembly, the theme was Abide in Me, based on John 15. And John 15:12 tells us, "My command is this, love each other as I have loved you." We at Highland Park Christian Church believe that by becoming an open and affirming church, it is a simple way to abide in God's love and to show our love for all of God's beloved. So if you are ready to embark on this journey, utilize the guide, trust the process, discover your pace, be it cautious or moderate or adventurous, and take each step with confidence. You will be surprised. You will be inspired. And you will grow as a faith within yourself and as a faith community as you build a more inclusive church. We know at Highland Park that the journey to being truly open and affirming never ends. But we at Highland Park are grateful to be allies who strive each and every day to affirm that all really means all. Thank you for your time.